If you've ever felt stuck because you're worried about ruining a watercolor painting or that it just won't turn out the way you hoped, you're definitely not alone. But before we move on, pause for just a second and really think about this. Right now, you might not even have a painting. So if you pick up the brush, what's the worst that could happen? You probably learned something, you figured out what works and what doesn't, and the best that could happen, you create something you're truly proud of. You get into a rhythm, discover new ideas, and start building real confidence. Either way, to me, you're moving forward. One step closer to the kind of painting you actually want to create. And I believe that's what matters the most. But here's something I see all the time. Someone might finally sit down to paint, maybe after days or even weeks of putting it off. And then suddenly this one painting feels like it has to be perfect. Like this is their one shot, their big moment to prove they've got it. And when it doesn't turn out the way they imagined it, they tend to take it hard. They might start thinking that I'm not good enough, I shouldn't have even tried, or they start thinking that it's just not for me. But that's not how art works. It never has been. Because when you sit down expecting to nail the painting on the first try, you're loading yourself up with so much pressure that doesn't need to be there. And when you paint, it's not a performance. It's not a test. It's really a process, a conversation with your materials. Your first attempt might not be amazing, and that's totally okay, because the moment your brush touches the paper, you start learning. You start figuring out what actually works, what you might change next time, what surprised you in the best way, and you just learn so many things that you can then carry on into your next painting. You wouldn't have had that if you just painted one time, hope for the best, and then get discouraged because it didn't meet your expectations. And here's the thing, success is usually a terrible teacher. It's the mistakes, the happy accidents, the unexpected results. That's where the real growth happens. So instead of thinking, I need to get this right, try shifting to, I'm just here to explore. That tiny mindset shift, it can change everything, because suddenly the pressure melts away, you stop trying to prove something, and you start giving yourself permission to actually enjoy the process. You're not taking a test, you're just running an experiment. So what should you do before you start painting if you want to feel more confident and actually enjoy the process? I know it's very tempting to just jump straight into a painting, especially when you're just so excited about a new idea or you have a beautiful reference that you want to paint. But if you skip the planning part, there's a good chance that you'll hit a wall halfway through, because at some point, maybe you feel like the composition feels weird, maybe the focal point isn't really clear, maybe something just feels off. And by the time you notice, you're already too far into that painting to change it without starting the whole painting over. So instead, try this. Just make a few loose pencil sketches. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just play with shapes, values, the composition, try different angles or different placements, just explore. These sketches will be like your map. They'll help you figure things out ahead of time, rather than just, scrambling for solutions mid-painting and just panicking also. And it's a small step, but it makes such a huge difference. You'll go with so much more clarity, more direction, and a lot more confidence when you start or continue this planning process. Because one of the biggest frustrations I hear is that, I started painting and suddenly my colors turned muddy. I didn't expect everything to turn into a mess. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to continue. That usually leads to self-doubt. And this is where a lot of times people just abandon their project, and then they have like a whole stack of unfinished projects because they just don't know how to continue. They didn't really have a plan. And also they don't know like what to do now, like how to fix that. And most of the time, like I said, it's because they skipped the testing, the thinking, the planning. Because if you haven't tried the color mixes or techniques beforehand and just figure out, okay, what works, what doesn't, what do I need to keep in mind and pay attention to when I paint, of course, things can feel clumsy or unpredictable when you kind of halfway into a piece you're emotionally invested in, right? So here's what I would suggest. Again, take a piece of watercolor paper and just divide it into small sections, even just a few rectangles on the page. You can use again a pencil, you can use tape. These don't have to be neat or fancy. They're just little spaces to test things out. And also it just feels less intimidating. And then in each one you can explore, for example, different color combinations, how certain techniques feel, what sequence of steps make the most sense, or just how your materials behave that day. And these low pressure tests let you figure things out again without wasting an entire sheet or a whole afternoon, and without feeling like, okay, it's this whole project that didn't work out. It's just a tiny test that you just learn and be curious about. It's like warming up before a workout. No pressure to perform, just, space to stretch, move, and just get comfortable. And then when you do start the actual painting, you'll feel way more at ease because you've already worked out some of the kinks. And one of the fastest ways to get overwhelmed is also just trying to tackle the entire painting at once. You might sit down, look at the blank page, and suddenly your brain is juggling everything, like the sky, also the trees, the shadows, the colors, the blending, the details, the timing, and where do you even start, and I need to make sure everything kind of works together. And that pressure can either make you freeze or rush. And instead, just zoom in. Pick just one part, maybe the sky or the reflection in the water or anything else that you want to practice, the figures in the project or just certain element, and just start there. Just focus on, how would you capture that? What colors do you need? How much water you need? How things flow and blend. And you can really put everything together. Because when you take it step by step, everything feels more manageable. And you also build momentum, and along the way you get these little wins, and this boosts your confidence and help the rest of the painting come together more naturally. As you can see, if you go into every painting thinking it has to be perfect or else it's a failure, you're literally just setting yourself up for stress and disappointment. And when it doesn't come out exactly how you hoped, which, like I said, is totally normal, you probably will start feeling like you're the problem. Then this voice can creep in that tells you maybe I'm just not good enough. Then suddenly days or even weeks go by without you actually painting. And not because you didn't want to, right? But probably because you just didn't want to feel that way again. So what if you let go of the idea that this painting has to be the painting because you need to make it count? What if it's just one of many steps or one of many projects, paintings towards something better? What if it's not a final verdict on your ability, just a part of your process? Because when you drop the one-shot mindset, everything opens up, because you then just give yourself space to try things, to learn, to grow. You can take risks, explore new ideas, and really enjoy the process, even if it doesn't go perfectly. And over time, you'll notice that all of those little experiments add up. They shape your style, they build your skill, and boost your confidence more than perfection ever could. So if fear or pressure is holding you back, just remember this. Right now, you might not even have a painting. So if you pick up the brush, what's the worst that can happen? You probably just learn something, you try, you grow, because at the end of the day, it's just a piece of paper. And the best that can happen, you can make something that surprises you, maybe even something you're proud of. Because either way, you're one step closer to the art you really want to create. And that's what it's all about.